The soft glow of the bistro lights usually cast a romantic ambience over our weekly date night, a cherished ritual Ben and I had maintained for the past 3 years. He was thoughtful, attentive, and often anticipated my needs before I even voiced them. Our relationship, for the most part, felt stable, comfortable, and genuinely happy. Yet, beneath the surface of our contentment, a subtle current sometimes swirled. I, Chloe, harbored a restlessness, a desire for a different kind of life, a different kind of partner. I sometimes found myself subtly wishing he had a flashier, more conventional kind of success that I could casually mention to friends, privately comparing him to an ideal I'd constructed in my mind. That evening, the atmosphere at a family gathering at my sister Sarah's house was particularly relaxed and convivial. The music was lively, laughter echoed through the crowded living room, and mutual friends mingled freely. It was the kind of night where inhibitions loosened, and casual interactions flowed with effortless ease. I was enjoying myself, catching up with various acquaintances, feeling a lightness that often escaped me in the structured routine of our weekdays. But as the evening wore on and the wine flowed, a familiar pressure began to build. The conversation veered towards personal achievements and ambitious partners, and I felt a growing, familiar insecurity. It's unsettling, isn't it, when the peace you've painstakingly built is suddenly, aggressively disrupted? You instinctively brace yourself, your mind scrambling to identify the source of the intrusion, desperate to maintain the fragile bubble of your calm. The familiar security of your own space feels violated, and a primal sense of unease creeps in, telling you that whatever is coming will demand more than you're willing to give. The wine, a deceptive friend, lowered my inhibitions, loosening my tongue and unleashing the thoughts I usually kept so tightly locked away. Ben was across the room, laughing with our friends, his face alight with genuine joy. He looked happy, proud, completely oblivious to the slow burn of resentment I carried. His contentment, in that moment, felt almost like a reproach, amplifying the quiet dissatisfaction I usually suppressed. The bitterness, fueled by wine, began to fester, twisting into a dark, ugly knot in my stomach. Later, as the party dwindled and the last guests were saying their goodbyes, Ben approached me, a gentle smile on his lips, his gaze warm and content. "Best night ever, Chloe," he murmured, his voice soft, filled with love. "I love our life. I love us." His words, intended as a declaration of love, struck me with a sudden, venomous clarity. In my drunken haze, they felt like a heavy weight, a suffocating blanket of contentment that smothered my unspoken longings. The quiet resentment, usually so carefully contained, surged forward, raw and uncontrolled, fueled by the reckless abandon of alcohol. My tongue, usually so guarded, felt loose, untethered. The raw, unpredictable power of words unleashed by alcohol is terrifying, isn't it? They escape your control, sharp and unvarnished, carrying the weight of unspoken resentments, hidden truths you never dared to utter sober. You watch, detached, as your own mouth betrays your deepest secrets, knowing that once spoken, those words will forever alter the landscape of your life, leaving indelible marks that can never be erased. I pulled away from his embrace, my eyes, blurred by wine, fixed on his unsuspecting face. The words formed in my mind, precise and chillingly clear, born from a place of suppressed dissatisfaction and a sudden, reckless courage. "You know, Ben," I began, my voice, thick with alcohol, but shockingly clear. "Sometimes I love you, of course, but—" I trailed off, searching for the right, cruel words to articulate a feeling that had long festered in the shadows of our relationship. He looked at me, a worried frown replacing his smile, sensing the profound shift in my tone. "Ben, what is it, Chloe? What's wrong?" His patience, his quiet sincerity, only fueled the fire within me, a cruel desire to make him understand the profound frustration I felt. "I don't know," I said, a slight, almost imperceptible scoff in my tone. "Sometimes I just feel like I want a partner who's a bit more ambitious. Someone who's a bit more of a go-getter. Someone I can be really proud of." My gaze flickered towards my sister, who caught my eye, a slight, knowing lift of her eyebrow. Ben's smile faltered. His hand, which had been reaching for mine, froze in midair. The casual cruelty of a dismissive remark often comes when it's delivered by someone you love, someone who has implicitly promised acceptance. You realize that their carefully constructed image of you, the perfect partner, is conditional, fragile, dependent on the suppression of your true history. And in that moment, the love you feel becomes entangled with a sharp, profound disappointment. A bitter taste of unspoken judgment. The subtle scoff had been deliberate, a casual cruelty designed to assert my own perceived superiority, to distance myself from what I saw as his lack. My body stiffened, a chill spreading through me as I watched the immediate impact of my words. Ben's face, which had been warm and content moments ago, went utterly, spectacularly pale. His eyes, just moments ago filled with love and warmth, widened in profound disbelief, then slowly, agonizingly, filled with a searing, soul-shattering hurt. His pride, something he rarely displayed, but clearly cherished, shattered in plain sight. The polite hum of conversation around us began to die down, sensing the sudden, palpable shift in the atmosphere. My sister, Sarah, across the room, watched with wide, shocked eyes. Ben stood motionless, his hand still suspended in the air, his glass of wine clutched so tightly I thought it might shatter. He didn't scream. He didn't rage. He simply looked at me, his gaze fixed, utterly broken, an anguish so raw it chilled me to the bone. The profound agony of a partner's world shattering before your eyes is a unique kind of hell. You witness the light drain from their gaze, the happiness evaporate, replaced by a devastating emptiness. And in that terrifying clarity, you realize the irreversible damage you've inflicted, the irrevocable boundary you've crossed, forever altering the landscape of your shared future. Their pain becomes your torment, a constant reminder of the devastating consequences of your words. My own mind, sobered instantly by the devastation in his eyes, screamed in silent horror. The alcohol-fueled bravado evaporated, leaving behind a cold, horrifying clarity. I wanted to scream, to apologize, to take the words back, to rewind time. But they hung in the air, sharp and undeniable, irreversible. The truth, ugly and raw, had been unleashed. He slowly pushed his chair back, the harsh scrape of metal on the floor echoing in the profound silence. He stood, his legs trembling, barely able to support him. He looked at me, his gaze filled with a raw, agonizing mixture of shock, profound betrayal, and a deep, soul-shattering grief. Ben, are you telling me you're not attracted to me anymore, Chloe? Is that what you're saying? The question was a lifeline. I could have denied it, could have apologized, could have tried to salvage the wreckage. But the wine, a cruel temptress, still had its hold. The resentment, once released, was hard to put back in its cage. Chloe, I don't know, Ben. The truth is, I think I've lost attraction. I can't pretend anymore. The words hung in the air, sharp and undeniable, piercing through the quiet. His face, which had been full of love and warmth, went utterly, spectacularly pale. His eyes, fixed on mine, widened in profound disbelief, then slowly, agonizingly, filled with a searing, soul-shattering hurt. His pride, something he rarely displayed, but clearly cherished, shattered in plain sight. He didn't yell. He didn't rage. He simply looked at me, his gaze fixed, utterly broken, an anguish so raw it chilled me to the bone. He took a slow, deliberate step back, then another, creating a vast, desolate chasm between us. Without a word, without a glance back, he turned and walked away, his shoulders slumped, his steps heavy, disappearing through the crowded room. He walked out of my sister's house, signaling an immediate, definitive break, leaving me in shock amidst the deafening silence of my mistake. The profound silence in my sister's living room pressed in on me, amplifying the cold, horrifying clarity of my colossal mistake. Ben was gone, having walked out after my casual, cruel confession. I've lost attraction. I just can't pretend anymore. His shattered gaze was the last thing I saw before he disappeared into the night, leaving me alone with the unbearable weight of my words. There's a unique agony in delivering the undeniable truth after a profound dismissal. You don't scream, you don't plead, you simply state the undeniable consequence of their actions. And in that quiet, unwavering resolve, you reclaim your dignity, forcing them to confront the chasm they've created. The shock on their face, the dawning realization of what they've lost, becomes a chilling testament to your newfound strength. I stood rooted to the spot, a bizarre mix of defiance and disbelief coursing through me. My anger, righteous moments ago, slowly drained away, leaving behind a profound sense of desolation. The party, which had been so vibrant, so full of life, had shattered around us. Friends, exchanging awkward glances, quickly made their excuses, their polite goodbyes a desperate scramble to escape the suffocating tension. Sarah, my sister, caught my eye, her face a mask of concern, but she didn't approach immediately. Even she seemed unsure how to navigate the wreckage I had created. I eventually found myself alone, the silence amplifying the chilling reality of Ben's departure. I stumbled out of Sarah's loft, the cool night air doing little to extinguish the burning shame in my cheeks. I walked aimlessly, the familiar city streets blurring into streaks of raw emotion. My initial defiance, the surge of righteous anger that had fueled my retort, slowly dissipated, replaced by a complex cocktail of emotions, the profound ache of a broken relationship, a lingering regret for the words spoken, even if deserved, and the terrifying reality of starting over. The initial rush of satisfaction from seeing Ben's pride shatter had faded, leaving behind the heavy weight of inevitable loss. When I walked into our apartment, the silence was deafening, suffocating. Ben was gone. The space where his shoes usually sat by the door was empty. His favorite mug was missing from the coffee rack. The subtle, yet profound, absence of his belongings screamed louder than any argument. He hadn't even bothered to leave a note. He'd simply packed a bag in furious silence and left, taking with him not just his presence, but the future I had envisioned. The raw impact of physical absence after a confrontation can be brutal. You expect a fight, a conversation, a chance to explain. But when they simply vanish, it leaves a gaping void, forcing you to confront the finality of their decision without any further words. It's a cruel silence that amplifies your own regret, your fear, and the terrifying reality that your life has irrevocably changed, leaving you adrift in a sea of shattered trust, a haunted landscape of what used to be. I plunged into a nightmare of regret. My phone lay untouched beside me, a constant reminder of the futile attempts I knew I would make to contact Ben. I left voicemails filled with desperate pleas, frantic apologies, and agonizing explanations, begging for a chance to undo the damage, to rewind time. But his phone went straight to voicemail, his silence a punishment far more effective than any anger. Each unanswered call felt like a fresh rejection, a chilling confirmation that I was losing everything. He had completely shut me out, demonstrating the depth of his hurt and his unwavering resolve. Days bled into a torturous haze of isolation and despair. I retreated from work, from mutual friends, from the world. Sleep was an elusive mirage, tormented by nightmares of Ben's shattered face, of my own venomous words, of a future that had vanished in an instant. My appetite disappeared, replaced by a constant knot of nausea in my stomach, a physical manifestation of my guilt and despair. The apartment, once filled with our shared laughter and quiet comfort, now felt like a vast, echoing chamber, amplifying my agony. Every object, every photograph, whispered memories of a life that was no longer mine, a love I had irrevocably shattered. The initial shock of betrayal is often followed by a period of profound solitude, a desperate retreat into yourself to process the unimaginable. You push away comfort, you reject understanding, because the very act of engaging with the outside world feels like an unbearable reminder of the lie you've lived. In that agonizing isolation, you pick through the shattered pieces of your past, desperately trying to construct a coherent narrative from the wreckage, trying to understand what was real and what was merely an illusion. Eventually, the crushing weight of my despair became too much. I needed to talk. I needed to breathe. I called Sarah, my closest friend, my voice raw and unfamiliar, thick with unshed tears. She answered immediately, her voice sharp with concern. "Chloe? Oh my God, I've been calling you for days. What happened? Where have you been?" I poured out the entire, agonizing story, every brutal detail of my drunken confession, Ben's shattered reaction, and his current, terrifying silence. Sarah listened in stunned disbelief, her usual vibrant energy replaced by a grim, quiet fury. When I finished, the air was thick with the weight of my words. Sarah sad face, her voice low, steady, filled with a blend of outrage and painful empathy. That is utterly devastating, Chloe. I am so sorry. You said what to him? In front of everyone? Ben, he cherished your life together. He deserved so much better than that. Her immediate, unwavering support, her righteous anger on my behalf, was a lifeline. It pulled me back from the brink of utter despair, validating my pain, reassuring me that I wasn't crazy for feeling utterly destroyed. She didn't offer platitudes, she offered unwavering solidarity. She urged me to seek professional counseling, not just for the immediate emotional fallout, but to help me navigate the profound ethical and emotional complexities of my situation, especially given the irreparable nature of my words. There's a unique strength found in the unwavering support of a true friend during your darkest hour. They don't try to fix you, they simply hold space for your pain, validating your agony, and offering a quiet, undeniable presence that reminds you you're not entirely alone. In their steadfastness, you find the courage to take the next breath, to face the next agonizing moment, knowing that your dignity, though bruised, is still intact. I started counseling, a grueling process of sifting through the wreckage of my emotions. My therapist helped me distinguish between the impulsive words spoken in anger and the deeper, hidden resentments they revealed. We explored the origins of that dissatisfaction, delving into past frustrations, unspoken expectations, and fundamental incompatibilities I had suppressed for years. I confessed the slow erosion of passion, the small, unaddressed frustrations, the feeling of my own dreams slowly fading in the comfortable predictability of our life. It was a painful journey, confronting ugly truths about myself, but also strangely liberating. With every painful revelation, a tiny bit of the suffocating weight lifted, but then, a crushing reality of Ben's decision hit me with full force. A letter arrived. Official, crisp, legal. It wasn't from Ben, but from his lawyer. The cold, formal language of the divorce papers confirmed the irreversible end of our marriage. The shock was absolute, a fresh wave of agony. He hadn't just left. He was permanently severing every tie. My own internal struggle raged. I was caught between the crushing weight of my guilt, the terrifying reality of losing Ben, and a desperate, fragile hope that he, somehow, might still find a way to forgive me, to accept this impossible truth. I clung to the hope that our love, once so strong, could somehow survive this cataclysm. The thought of losing everything, of my life being systematically dismantled, piece by painful piece, was a crushing weight. The formal language of the legal documents, stark and uncompromising, solidified the devastating reality for me. The marriage was truly over. My words, uttered in a moment of reckless abandon, had brought us to this inevitable, agonizing precipice. The reckoning was here. And there was nowhere left to hide. The crisp, cold reality of the divorce papers, a physical manifestation of Ben's irreversible decision, lay splayed on my kitchen counter. Each legal term was a hammer blow to my heart. He was gone, a phantom, his absence amplifying the cold, horrifying clarity of my colossal mistake. My words, I've lost attraction. I just can't pretend anymore, echoed in my mind, a chilling reminder of the precise wound I had inflicted, a wound that now, I realized, was far deeper than I could have ever imagined. There's a unique agony in seeing the precise moment your casual cruelty transforms into irreversible consequence. The words you tossed out thoughtlessly, believing they carried no true weight, returned to you, magnified by the pain they caused, reflecting the profound emptiness of your own pride. And in that chilling clarity, you're forced to confront the wreckage of a life you so carelessly destroyed. I was plunged into a deeper nightmare of regret. The apartment, once filled with our shared laughter and quiet comfort, now felt like a vast, cold tomb. Every object, every photograph, whispered memories of a life that was no longer mine, a love I had irrevocably shattered. Sleep was an elusive mirage, tormented by nightmares of Ben's shattered face, of my own venomous words, of a future that had vanished in an instant. My appetite disappeared, replaced by a constant knot of nausea in my stomach, a physical manifestation of my guilt and despair. The official start of divorce proceedings was a brutal reality check. Each legal document, each question from my own lawyer, felt like a physical wrenching of my past. Dividing assets, valuing our home, unwinding shared accounts, every practical step of dissolving our life together was excruciating. Each shared item became a painful reminder of what we lost, a tangible piece of the beautiful future I had so carelessly dismissed. The sheer formality of it all amplified the finality, making the loss tangible in a way my emotional brain had resisted. The complex agony of processing irreversible loss is a unique hell. It's not just the absence of a person, but the shattering of your entire perception of reality. You're forced to re-examine every cherished memory, every intimate moment, searching for clues you were too blind or too arrogant to see. And in that horrifying dissection of your past, the beautiful tapestry of your life unravels, revealing a grotesque pattern of deceit that leaves you questioning not just them, but yourself, your judgment, your entire existence. Ben, meanwhile, maintained his absolute silence. His resolve was unbroken. He communicated solely through his lawyer, a professional barrier that underscored his profound hurt and his inability to reconcile with my betrayal. His distance signaled that while I may have been understanding myself, his trust remained profoundly shattered. He was prioritizing his own healing and the definitive end of the marriage, a decision I couldn't fault, but one that left me in perpetual agony. The bitter irony was not lost on me. I had dismissed his quiet, solid life, only to find myself utterly adrift in its absence. My own internal struggle raged. I was caught between the crushing weight of my guilt, the terrifying reality of losing Ben, and a desperate, fragile hope that he, somehow, might still find a way to forgive me, to accept this impossible truth. I clung to the hope that our love, once so strong, could somehow survive this cataclysm. Overwhelmed, I plunged into therapy, clinging to it as a lifeline. My therapist helped me distinguish between the impulsive words spoken in anger and the deeper, hidden resentments they revealed. We explored the origins of that dissatisfaction, delving into past frustrations, unspoken expectations, and fundamental incompatibilities I had suppressed for years. I confessed the slow erosion of passion, the small, unaddressed frustrations, the feeling of my own dreams slowly fading in the comfortable predictability of our life. It was a painful journey, confronting ugly truths about myself, but also strangely liberating. With every painful revelation, a tiny bit of the suffocating weight lifted. The true nature of self-transformation begins with unflinching accountability. You acknowledge the ugly truths, the deep-seated flaws that led to your downfall, and you commit to the arduous work of rebuilding yourself from the ground up. It's a painful process, stripping away layers of denial and self-pity, but it's the only path to genuine self-awareness and the possibility of a new, authentic beginning. However distant it may seem. My therapist helped me understand that Ben's perceived sensitivity was likely a deeply ingrained defense mechanism, born from past trauma. My casual act of lap-sitting, combined with my sharp retort, had not only violated a current boundary but had also ripped open an old wound, confirming his deepest fears. The knowledge that I had so carelessly inflicted such pain, unknowingly echoing a past betrayal, was a crushing burden. It was not just my arrogance, it was a fundamental blindness to his vulnerability that had cost me everything. Sarah, my steadfast friend, remained a constant pillar of support. She guided me through the emotional and practical turmoil, accompanying me to difficult meetings, providing tough love, and offering unwavering encouragement for genuine self-improvement. She validated my pain, even as she held me accountable, reminding me that the only path forward was through brutal honesty and self-reflection. Her presence was a lifeline in the suffocating darkness of my despair, a quiet anchor in the stormy sea of my regret. Weeks turned into months. Ben remained a ghost. His silence was louder than any scream, his absence a constant, aching void. I knew he was suffering, probably more profoundly than I could imagine. He was wrestling with an impossible reality, a partner who had betrayed him in the most fundamental way, whose words had revealed a deep-seated contempt for their life together. The profound shame, the weight of my own words, haunted my every waking moment. I began to accept the agonizing finality of the divorce. Our home, filled with so many memories, was sold, its contents divided with impersonal precision. Each showing, each packed box, felt like a physical wrenching of my past. My life, once inextricably linked with Ben's, was being systematically dismantled, piece by painful piece. I found myself facing an empty future, shaped entirely by my single, destructive act, and the irreversible path Ben had chosen, just as I began to find a fragile footing in therapy, to accept the painful reality of my loss, a desperate, overwhelming yearning for a chance to apologize directly, to explain my profound regret, consumed me. I didn't want to salvage the marriage, I wanted to offer true accountability, to convey the depth of my remorse for the pain I had caused. My need for his understanding, for any flicker of forgiveness, became an unbearable ache. My fingers trembled. As I typed out a message, not a demand, not a justification, but a raw, heartfelt plea for a final meeting, a chance to simply deliver my truth. I needed to let him know that I truly understood the depth of my cruelty, the profound regret that consumed me. My message was short, explicit, signaling my complete humility, acknowledging the irreversible damage, and simply asking for a space to offer my apology. The fate of my soul, I felt, depended on it. The raw, heartfelt plea for a final meeting, a chance to simply deliver my truth, hung in the digital air. My fingers trembled as I sent the message to Ben, knowing the fate of my soul, I felt, depended on it. Weeks of agonizing self-reflection, fueled by therapy and Sarah's unwavering support, had led me to this moment of desperate humility. I needed to convey the depth of my remorse, the profound understanding of the pain I had caused. There's a fragile courage in offering a desperate apology after profound betrayal, isn't there? You strip away every defense, every shred of pride, laying bare the raw agony of your regret. You know you may be met with silence, with further rejection, but the overwhelming need to convey the true depth of your remorse compels you forward. Hoping for a flicker of understanding, a chance for a final, agonizing clarity, days stretched into a torturous eternity. Ben's silence, once a symbol of his rage, now became a suffocating weight of uncertainty. I checked my phone obsessively, every ping, every notification, sending a jolt of desperate hope through me. The silence was louder than any scream, amplifying my guilt, my fear, my yearning for a response. My life had become an agonizing waiting game, suspended in a limbo of unaddressed pain. Then, a subtle shift. A few days later, my phone vibrated with an incoming message. It was from Ben. My heart leaped into my throat, pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. My hand trembled so violently I almost dropped the phone. The screen glowed, displaying a short, direct message. It gave no indication of his emotional state, no promise of forgiveness, but it was a response. Chloe, I'll meet you tomorrow, 10 a.m., at the old coffee shop downtown. Alone. My breath hitched. He had agreed. The realization brought a wave of relief so profound it left me weak, quickly followed by a fresh surge of terror. This wasn't a request for reconciliation. It was a summons. A chance, perhaps, to outline his conditions for any possible path forward. My stomach clenched, a mix of terror and a fragile, desperate hope. The reckoning was coming. And I knew I had to face it, ready or not. The agonizing anticipation of a final confrontation can be a brutal emotional gauntlet. You prepare your words, you steel your resolve, knowing that this moment will define the ultimate fate of a profound connection. Every passing second feels like an eternity, amplifying the weight of your past mistakes and the terrifying uncertainty of your future, leaving you utterly exposed to whatever judgment awaits you. I spent the rest of the day and night in a state of restless anticipation, replaying every moment of my deception, every therapy session, every conversation with Sarah. I rehearsed my apology, my explanation, determined to offer nothing but the unvarnished truth, no excuses, no deflections. This wasn't about convincing Ben, it was about laying bare my soul, accepting full responsibility, and proving my commitment to change. The next morning, the air was crisp, the sky a brilliant blue, a cruel contrast to the turmoil in my stomach. As I approached Ben's apartment, the familiar front door loomed, a gateway to an unknown future. He opened it before I could even knock, his face grim, his eyes hollow. He didn't invite me in with warmth, but with a cold, solemn nod. The living room, usually filled with laughter, felt heavy with unspoken words. He motioned for me to sit on the sofa, keeping his distance, choosing a chair across the room. The space between us felt vast, a chasm of shattered trust. Thanks for coming, he said, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. I needed to say some things. And then I need to hear everything. No more lies, Chloe. Not one. My throat was tight, but I nodded, my gaze locked on his. Yes, Ben. No more lies. He took a deep, shuddering breath, his chest visibly heaving. When he finally spoke, his voice was low, raw, each word a hammer blow to my heart. When you said those things, Chloe? Wrong life, wrong husband, it wasn't just the words. It was the venom behind them. It was the contempt. It was the betrayal of everything I thought we were. I heard you, Chloe. Every single ugly word. He paused, his eyes filling with a searing anguish. I loved our life. I loved us. And you shattered it. In a single moment of drunken honesty. His pain was a physical ache, mirroring the agony in my own heart. The full weight of my drunken confession, the years of subtle resentment, the utter destruction I had wrought, crashed down on me. I wanted to scream, to cry, to take the words back, to rewind time. But they hung in the air, sharp and undeniable. Irreversible, the profound anguish of the betrayed is a mirror reflecting your own culpability. You see the shattering of their world, the unraveling of their trust, and it burns with an unbearable intensity. There's no escaping the impact of your actions, no minimizing the depth of the wound. Their pain becomes your torment, a constant reminder of the devastating consequences of your choices, a living testament to the irreversible damage you've inflicted. I'm so sorry, Ben, I choked out, tears streaming down my face. I know it was horrible. I know I destroyed everything. But it was the alcohol. I didn't mean it. Not truly. Not the way it sounded. My words were a desperate, raw plea, inadequate and hollow, even to my own ears. I knew, even as I spoke them, that I was trying to protect myself, to avoid the true cost of my dishonesty. His lawyer, Ms. Davies, calmly interjected. Ms. Vance, while alcohol may lower inhibitions, it does not create thoughts or resentments that do not already exist. Mr. Thompson's pain is profound, and he seeks an honest explanation for the origins of your words. Her words were a cold splash of reality, jarring me from my self-pity. She was right. The alcohol hadn't created the resentment, it had merely unleashed it. I took a deep, shuddering breath and forced myself to look into Ben's shattered eyes. The truth, no matter how ugly, now my only option. Maya, you're right. The alcohol, it just loosened my tongue. The resentment, it's been there. Buried. For a while. I never wanted to acknowledge it. I was afraid. Afraid of hurting you. Afraid of losing what we had. But I felt like I was losing myself. Somewhere along the way, I stopped living for me. I felt stifled. Trapped by the routine. By the stability. I know it sounds selfish. I know it sounds horrible. But I just couldn't say it. So it festered. And then, it exploded. I confessed. Everything, the slow erosion of passion, the small, unaddressed frustrations, the feeling of my own dreams slowly fading in the comfortable predictability of our life. I spoke of the profound personal flaw I harbored, my inability to articulate dissatisfaction, to communicate my true feelings. Instead, I had allowed it to fester, to build into a silent contempt that finally erupted in a moment of drunken honesty. The raw confession of a profound lie is a terrifying thing. You lay bare the darkest parts of your soul, exposing your fears, your mistakes, your deepest shames. And in that raw vulnerability, you crave understanding, yet you brace for the inevitable condemnation. It's a moment of reckoning, where every justification feels hollow, every plea for empathy seems to fall on deaf ears. But in that truth, however agonizing, lies the first step towards genuine accountability. When I finished, the silence in the room was deafening. Ben stood motionless, his face etched with pain, his eyes fixed on me. He wrestled with the full scope of my confession, the agonizing truth that my drunken words were not just an unfortunate outburst, but a stark revelation of a deep-seated contempt I harbored for our life together. He was torn between his profound hurt and the lingering love he felt, faced with an impossible reconciliation. Ms. Davies spoke, her voice calm and procedural, breaking the agonizing silence. Mr. Thompson, given the profound breach of trust and the nature of these revelations, the divorce proceedings will move forward as planned. We have the necessary documentation prepared. She slid a folder across the table towards Daniel. Daniel, his gaze still fixed on me, slowly reached for the folder. His hand trembled slightly as he opened it, pulling out a stack of neatly typed documents. The formal language of the divorce papers, stark and uncompromising, solidified the devastating reality for me. The marriage was truly over. My words, uttered in a moment of reckless abandon, had brought us to this inevitable, agonizing precipice. He looked up from the papers, his eyes filled with a searing agony, a final, definitive pain. I can't be here right now, Chloe, he choked out, his voice thick with emotion. He turned, his gaze falling to the floor, unable to meet my eyes, unable to reconcile the woman he loved with the devastating truth. I need to think. I can't look at you right now, Chloe. Not like this. not knowing everything. He walked towards the door, his steps heavy, deliberate. Miss Davies remained impassive. My heart pounded, knowing what was coming. This was it. The consequence of my words, finally here. He paused, his hand on the doorknob, his back to me. Daniel, don't contact me, Chloe. Not until I'm ready. Not until I figure out if there's anything left for me to salvage from all this. He walked out, pulling the door closed behind him, plunging me into a profound, suffocating darkness. I stood motionless in the silent living room, the echoes of my confession reverberating around me. The divorce papers lay on the table, stark reminders of the future I had shattered. The words I had uttered while drunk, the resentment I had harbored, had brought us to this irreversible, agonizing precipice. The reckoning was here. And there was nowhere left to hide the cold, flat words, don't contact me, Chloe. Not until I'm ready, still echoed in the suffocating silence of my living room. Daniel was gone, leaving behind the stark reality of the divorce papers splayed on the dining table. My drunken confession, the culmination of years of suppressed resentment, had not only shattered our anniversary but had utterly obliterated my marriage, leaving me to face an emptiness more profound than I could have ever imagined. There's a crushing realization that follows the finality of loss, isn't there? It's not just the absence of a person, but the irreversible vanishing of a future, a fundamental shift in the landscape of your life. You grasp for something familiar, something stable, but find only the echoing void of what used to be. And in that profound emptiness, you're forced to confront the true, agonizing cost of your choices, and the lasting impact of your words. I plunged into a deeper nightmare of regret. The apartment, once filled with our shared laughter and quiet comfort, now felt like a vast, cold tomb. Every object, every photograph, whispered memories of a life that was no longer mine, a love I had irrevocably shattered. Sleep was an elusive mirage, tormented by nightmares of Daniel's shattered face, of my own venomous words, of a future irrevocably lost. My appetite vanished, replaced by a constant knot of nausea in my stomach, a physical manifestation of my guilt and despair. The divorce was finalized, a quiet, cold process that officially severed the last legal ties to Daniel. Our home, filled with so many memories, was sold, its contents divided with impersonal precision. Each showing, each packed box, felt like a physical wrenching of my past. My life, once inextricably linked with Daniel's, was being systematically dismantled, piece by painful piece. I found myself facing an empty future, shaped entirely by my single, destructive act. Daniel, I learned through the hushed whispers of mutual acquaintances, was indeed thriving in his new city. He had found peace, a new sense of purpose that radiated from him even through distant anecdotes. He was rebuilding, meticulously crafting a new life untainted by the bitterness of our past. His strength, his resilience, and his unwavering commitment to his own well-being became a stark, painful contrast to my spiraling despair. He was moving forward, while I was trapped in the wreckage of what I had destroyed. The greatest agony of loss isn't always the immediate pain, but the haunting knowledge of what could have been, juxtaposed with the thriving reality of the one you lost. You watch, from a distance, as they rebuild, find happiness, and move into a future that you are fundamentally excluded from. And in their newfound peace, you are forced to confront the profound void created by your own actions, a void that no amount of regret can ever fill. I continued therapy, clinging to it as a lifeline. My therapist helped me distinguish between the impulsive words spoken in anger and the deeper, hidden resentment they revealed. We explored the origins of that dissatisfaction, delving into past frustrations, unspoken expectations, and fundamental incompatibilities I had suppressed for years. I confessed the slow erosion of passion, the small, unaddressed frustrations, the feeling of my own dreams slowly fading in the comfortable predictability of our life. It was a painful journey, confronting ugly truths about myself, but also strangely liberating. With every painful revelation, a tiny bit of the suffocating weight lifted. I learned that my drunken words were not just an unfortunate outburst, but a symptom of a deeper problem, my inability to articulate dissatisfaction, to communicate my true feelings. Instead, I had allowed resentment to fester, to build into a silent contempt that finally erupted, destroying everything. The profound shame, the weight of my own words, haunted my every waking moment. The true nature of self-transformation begins with unflinching accountability. You acknowledge the ugly truths, the deep-seated flaws that led to your downfall, and you commit to the arduous work of rebuilding yourself from the ground up. It's a painful process, stripping away layers of denial and self-pity, but it's the only path to genuine self-awareness and the possibility of a new, authentic beginning. Slowly, painstakingly, a new path for myself began to emerge. It wasn't the life I had lost, but one built on the painful lessons learned. I invested in my own growth, taking courses, pursuing dormant passions. I focused on building new, healthier relationships based on radical honesty, understanding that true connection could only exist where there was complete transparency. My life became a testament to the painful, yet profound, process of self-improvement. I found a hard-won peace, not in reclaiming Daniel, but in reclaiming myself. The cost of my drunken confession was immense, it was irreversible, and it defined the end of a beautiful chapter. But it also forced me to confront my deepest flaws, to embrace accountability, and to embark on a journey of profound self-discovery. My life was not the one I lost, but one built on the brutal lessons learned, forged in the crucible of regret, and ultimately, leading to a new, authentic, and truly honest future.